more than 30 nations are in the process of ratifying their membership in the ICC. There are 123 members right now. The United States is not one of them, by the way. They began operating in 2002. It's based on a treaty called the Rome Statute that was ratified in 1998. And this should not be confused with the International Court of Justice, which also sits at The Hague. And the International Court of Justice has explicitly called on Putin to stop the genocide, the destruction, the massive, his invasion of Ukraine. But the International Court of Justice looks at legal issues between nations. The International Criminal Court prosecutes war criminals. And they have been looking into Russia and Ukraine since 2014 with regard to the situation in Crimea and the Donbass, and now they've expanded that to include this. They prosecute crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression. For example, the International Criminal Court conducted trials against about the genocide of the Tutsis in Rwanda by the Hutus, the genocide in Srebrenica in Yugoslavia back in 1995, and the use of chemical weapons in Darfur in South Sudan, what's next door to what's now South Sudan, in 2002. There are basically 6 stages to a prosecution. Stage 1 is they announce the prosecution and begin their investigation. That happened on February 28th when Chief Prosecutor Karim Ahmad Khan announced that the ICC was launching this investigation. They've received appeals from 39 countries that they investigate Russia and Putin for war crimes. That includes the EU member states, Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, the English-speaking countries. The United States couldn't because we're not a signatory to this. And I think we're not a signatory to this because if we were, we probably would have seen George W. Bush and Dick Cheney being tried for war crimes. In March of 2016, Karim Khan arrived in Ukraine and began his work. They are in the country right now collecting evidence. On March 17th, they sent an official request to meet with Russia, which Russia is ignoring. That's stage 1. Second stage is the suspects are identified and an arrest warrant is issued. The third stage is pre-trial, where the charges, they have the hearings, and the judges decide usually within 60 days if there's enough evidence. The fourth stage is the actual trial, and the judges issue a verdict. Fifth stage, there's a right to appeal, and the sixth stage, after the appeal has been exhausted, there's a sentence. And they can impose prison sentences of up to 30 years or even life imprisonment. They can impose a fine or confiscate the income, property, or assets that have been obtained by these war crimes. And anybody who has been convicted by the International Criminal Court will not be able to visit any of the 123 countries who signed the Rome Statute. Again, that doesn't include the United States or Russia. In addition, these criminals will be automatically included in the ICC's wanted list. And so they can go after heads of state, they can go after members of government, they can go after elected representatives, they can go after pretty much anybody, the International Criminal Court. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, since we're not part of the International Criminal Court, and neither is the United Kingdom and neither is Russia, excuse me, the United Kingdom is, but nonetheless, another way to do this would be the one that Gordon Brown and Sir John Major in the United Kingdom are suggesting. Both of them former prime ministers of the United Kingdom, along with 140 academics, lawyers, and politicians. They've signed a petition calling for a brand new legal system. They want to model it after the Nuremberg trials, where the Nazis were tried. So a standalone, legal entity, because the International Criminal Court, I went through the 6 stages for the International Criminal Court, and they're gathering evidence and all that, but they cannot begin the trial without the permission of the United Nations Security Council. The International Criminal Court is a child of the UN, and Russia is a permanent member of the Security Council, and so they'll just veto it. So what Gordon Brown and John Major are saying is we need a Nuremberg tribunal. Maybe even hold it in Nuremberg, who knows? And they're saying that this can be done in addition to what the ICC is doing, because the ICC is gathering information. Writing in the Daily Mail, former Prime Minister Brown said that creating the new tribunal would close off that loophole of the you know, the ability of Russia to veto the ICC prosecution so that, quote, Putin can, the loophole that, quote, Putin could use to dodge justice. He went on to say, we must move with speed to assure the people of Ukraine that we are committed to action and not just warm words. And we must make Putin's collaborators aware that the noose is tightening. If they do not distance themselves from Putin, they face prosecution and prison, wrote Mr. Brown. The Nuremberg trials, by the way, were the first ever international war crime trials. And Brown continues, he says, as Nuremberg, we held the Nazi war criminals to account. 8 decades on, we must ensure that there will be a day of reckoning for Putin and his colleagues.